This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast with today's guest, online marketing expert, Neil Patel.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Can you imagine having the opportunity to interview Oprah Winfrey? I mean, how awesome would that be if we could get Oprah on the show? Now, as much as I would love to have Oprah on the show, and I most certainly would never say no to Oprah coming on the show, I have to admit I've never really pursued getting Oprah on the show. I'm not sure why. I mean, I love everything she's done. I am in awe of and admiration of how she has grown her business and the lives of the people that she's touched. But I have to admit, she's not on my list of top 10 people to interview. So imagine how you would feel if someone who was on that top 10 list said yes. Well, that is exactly what happened when Neil Patel agreed to come on the podcast. I mean, guys, you may not actually know who Neil Patel is. And that's kind of okay. You know, when you see his picture, maybe you'll realize who he is. Although I do know a lot of people get him and Seth Godin, who's also on my top 10 list, confused. But anyway, when he said yes, I did the biggest happy dance. And I was telling everybody I knew about how Neil Patel was coming on the podcast. I was super excited. And then he rescheduled. I got a notification to say that our interview had been cancelled, but that's okay. I freaked out slightly, but he just rescheduled and moved it to the next day. So the interview was scheduled for 8:45 a.m. Now, for 2 days beforehand, I was sick. I thought I was coming down with the flu. But now that I look back on it, I realized that it was just nerves. I was super nervous. It's an amazing opportunity to be in the company and to interview someone who is known as one of the top 10 influencers in the world. Like, guys, as far as I'm concerned, my top three are Neil Patel and Seth Godin, followed very closely by Amy Porterfield. The dude is a rock star. So for 2 days, I was sick. But the day came, the day to interview him, and I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I could not sleep. Now, you probably already know that we don't do questions here at the podcast. Sometimes I might write up a couple of questions of things that have piqued my interest from an about page or a blog post, but we don't send questions beforehand. However, because this was let's be honest, this was the biggest interview of my career, I had written down a bunch of questions to ask him just so I could stay focused, because this guy's a guru. He knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to SEO and driving traffic to your website. And I wanted to ask him about how you could do this for your e-commerce site. And that's what we asked him when we pitched him to come on the show. And guys, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was the hardest interview I have ever done in my life. And no, not because I was nervous. I was prepared for this interview. I had done so much research. I had it prepped myself. I'd prepped my questions. I checked everything a dozen times. Now, this guy has appeared on stage all around the world, and he has his own podcast. It's called Marketing School. It is awesome. And it comes out every day, and I'm going to pop a link to it in the show notes because it goes for 5 minutes. And he does a fantastic job answering really good questions and giving you really good tips on marketing your business. The guy is also a rock star when it comes to giving you information. But when it came to interviewing him, it's a little bit hard to explain, but he doesn't actually talk an awful lot. And as you can imagine, with someone like me who is so enthusiastic and so energetic and I wave my arms around, having somebody that doesn't have that same energy back was a little bit disconcerting for me. And so I wondered whether I should actually air this episode or not. And the reason I struggled with whether or not I should air this episode was because before I recorded it, I was really clear about what I wanted in life. I know that I want to build a business that lets me be financially free, that lets me have the time to pick my kid up from school and to go on holidays and spend time with my family and, most importantly, take time out for myself. And that's not what Neil wants in his life. However, Neil is super focused on his why. He knows exactly why he is here on this earth, and he knows what he is good at in his business, and he has not lost sight of that, which it can be easy to do when you run your own business. We can get caught up in the doing. So going into this episode, I want you to have an open mind, because just what makes Neil happy and what he wants in his life is different to what I want, does not make it wrong. And Neil is going to share so much with you. I mean, guys, get your pen and paper ready, because he is going to give you so much good advice on how you can drive traffic to your website and get more sales. And it's an interesting way to observe what makes other people tick, and their passion for being in business can be different to ours and still be right and still be okay. Neil has actually done what so many of us wish we could do: work out exactly, pinpoint that exact thing that we are fantastic at in our business and focus on it solely to make sure that the work that we are doing is productive and is driving the business forward. It can be easy to get caught up in doing so many things. However, Neil has worked out that his genius zone is in writing, in testing, in measuring, and then giving you the results so that you can implement these same things. And that's exactly what he's going to do here on the podcast. He's going to share with you some fantastic tips and tricks and hacks that you can use to increase sales on your e-commerce site. And before we jump into this episode, just a reminder that the Retail Breakthrough Series starts next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Sydney time. If you feel like you've hit a plateau, or that you're stuck, or you're getting caught up on that Groundhog Day treadmill where every day seems to be filled with repetitive tasks and constant overwhelm, then this series is for you. If you've ever felt like there needs to be more to business than this, then you're going to love what I have in store for you. And if you're putting in all the work, doing everything the experts tell you, but you just don't seem to be getting any further ahead, then you've just got to come and join me. What I'll share with you through this live limited edition series is how to overcome the 3 major roadblocks that are stopping your retail business, whether you're online or e-commerce, from being that profitable brand that you have always wanted. And the best part is it is absolutely free. Head on over to selenaknight.com/breakthrough to grab your front row seat. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Today's guest started his career in marketing at the age of 16. The Wall Street Journal called him a top influencer on the web. Forbes says he's one of the top 10 marketers. And Entrepreneur Magazine says he's created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. He's a New York Times bestselling author and was recognized as a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30 by President Obama, and a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 35 by the United Nations. So welcome to the show, Neil Patel. I feel a bit like Ellen saying that.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Now, for those who may not have heard of you, can you give us just the 2-minute version of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my background is in marketing. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I just help people get more traffic to their websites. I co-founded an agency called Neil Patel Digital, where we help companies of all sizes just generate more traffic and sales from the web. And I've invested in a ton of startups, worked on a lot of different projects over the years. I even advised tons of fun companies like White Pages, which in the US is more like a online version of the old school phone book. Or I advise another blockchain project called Kind Ads, where they're figuring out how to cut out the middleman so that way ads are cheaper for advertisers and publishers make more money.
You're like the Oprah of online marketing. Honestly, you just keep giving and giving and giving. For those of you who may not have been to Neil's website, neilpatel.com, you have some fantastic guides from digital marketing, Facebook advertising, Google advertising, blogging, content marketing, the list goes on. And these guides aren't small, are they?
No, they're long. They're very long. Some of them are like 30,000 words.
That's a lot of content, but they walk you through. And it is, if you are looking into any of these things, Neil is the guy that you should be hanging out with because he gives you all this information for free. So, on behalf of all of the online marketers out there, thank you very much for that.
No problem.
Now, you're known as the traffic and SEO guy. So, let's jump in and I'm going to ask you what your suggestions are for the independent e-commerce or bricks and mortar store owner to drive more traffic to their website.
Sure. So the first thing I would say is, if you're trying to get more people to your website, with Google, make sure you use Google Local, especially, you have a local business, you need to list it, put in your name, your phone number, all that kind of stuff, encourage reviews from people who are attending the physical store. And over time, you can do quite well, right? It's just when it comes to Google Local, it's not that time consuming, and it's not really the most competitive. But if you do generally what works for most SEO, like write amazing content, build some links, and you can do this locally from like your chamber of commerce or wherever it may be, your other local business, try to partner up. What you'll find is eventually you'll start getting results in Google. And then if you have an e-commerce store, you can do a lot of interesting stuff. A good example with e-commerce is you can go out there if you're just trying to figure out how to get more sales and you have an amazing product. Why not give away people some of your products for free in exchange for bloggers to do a review on it? They can even say how they got your product for free and put in all the disclaimers. But if you do that within your target market, you'll notice that you'll get more and more reviews and people talking kindly about you, and it drives sales. Like little simple things like that really add up. Instead of just going off and being like, yeah, you have to do SEO. It's the only way to work. Like there's other simple, more creative ways to get stuff done, especially when you're not technical.
So when you're talking about giving out the free samples, I know a lot of people feel like they need to go to big influencers. Are you suggesting that we can avoid the big influencers where we have to pay to play? Are you saying maybe just go grassroots and send them out to customers even?
Customers, micro influencers, the big ones, they may have a large following, but they're not related necessarily to your product or service, so it just doesn't convert as well.
That's an interesting concept because I know that we've had a lot of people on the show talking about how to work with influencers and the reach that you can get when you work with them. But you're saying you don't have to think so big. You can just go back to basics and go back to those people who love your brand, and they may not even be huge influencers.
Yeah, it all really does add up fast.
So what are some other tips that you would have to drive traffic to an e-commerce store? So far we've got just giving some product away, or in other words, you're just saying generate some reviews. So we need to get some reviews, some user-generated content onto the website. And in terms of SEO, this is a question that we get asked all the time. And I'm not the SEO expert. I don't even claim to be close to an SEO expert. So when people ask me, I am always proud to recommend somebody else. But can you just give us maybe 3 SEO tips for putting products onto a website?
Sure. So 3 SEO tips for putting products onto websites. There's a few things. So one, you need to make sure you're super descriptive with your product. You don't want to just copy the product description. Like if you're selling the same product that 10 other people are, you don't want to use the same description. You want to be super descriptive, write it yourself, and make it as in-depth as possible. 2, you want to make sure you have amazing pictures and videos that showcase the product. The more amazing the pictures and videos are, the better your conversion rates will be, but also the user metrics as well. When people come to your site, they want to be able to see stuff, how it looks, before they end up buying it. And Google doesn't just look at, hey, how many links your on-page code, but they're also looking at user metrics, like is your bounce rate low? Are people satisfied with their experience? The third is encourage reviews. So tell people like, rate this, let us know what you think of this product. Those little things help create more user-generated content, which helps generate more content or traffic in the long run. And I'll even give you a bonus tip. Number 4 is just make sure your on-page code is clean. You can do things like use schema markups, because when you have reviews and stuff, you can showcase that, and that can all be displayed in like the Google search listings, which could help your click-through rate.
I think you lost everybody at tip number 4.
No worries.
But that's okay. We're going to leave it there because a lot of people may know what you're talking about. You said the word schema, and my eyes glossed over.
Here's this one. If you're on like WordPress, there's plugins like Yoast SEO plugin that solve most of this for you. If you're on Shopify, there's a lot of plugins that do like your SEO and schema for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. Just look for an SEO plugin for whatever CMS you're using.
We love it. We love it. It's one of the reasons I like Shopify because there's a plugin for everything.
Yep.
All right. So one of the strategies that you do recommend is content. And you kind of just talked about it just then, putting in a fantastic description, getting the reviews, putting the pictures in. But in terms of content, I'll be honest, I have to create a lot of content and it can take a lot of time and a lot of brain space. You blog like, like it's going out of fashion. How do you keep up?
Well, technically I only blog once a week, so it's not that bad. I just do a detailed post on neilpatel.com once a week, and that's it.
Really? It feels like you are everywhere.
Well, I also create videos and podcasts, but blogging I only do once a week.
How do you come up with the ideas for those blogs? Is it just what's happening in your life right now?
Yeah, or I brainstorm, I ask a few people for advice and some tips, and then go from there.
You make it sound so simple.
Well, when you're writing one a week, it is. If I was blogging daily, it gets a bit more complex because you're going to run out of ideas much quicker. And if that's the case, you can use tools like BuzzSumo to come up with ideas. They'll tell you what works for your competition.
Do you think that blogging is relevant for an online store?
It is, but it's not necessary. Blogging for an e-commerce store isn't as effective as it is for like lead generation and some of the other businesses out there.
Interesting, because so many people say that you need to have a blog attached to your shop. So you're saying that you can use it to drive traffic, but it may not generate sales.
Correct. Now, let's look at Amazon. Amazon may have a blog. They probably do. I have no idea. But who actually goes to Amazon's blog? I don't know anyone.
Well, if you don't know if they have one and I don't know if they have one, I'm guessing if they have one, they don't publicize it.
Exactly. You got it right.
Yeah. All right. So my next question for you is, you have a lot of businesses. You're a serial entrepreneur. You like to buy businesses. You've got a bit of a knack for growing businesses. What do you look for when you acquire a company or when you start building a business in order to get really quick growth and hopefully some sales?
I just look for things that are wrong. Sorry about that.
That's a very simplified answer.
Just getting over a cough, but a small cold and cough. But so going back to, anytime I'm looking at a business or growth opportunities, I'm looking for stuff that's wrong. And what I wanted to say before I started coughing was, if you have a business and you're looking at it, then you could be like, oh, we don't make as many sales because we don't always carry enough inventory. Or, oh, the business isn't profitable because we have too much inventory. Or, oh, the checkout process is really hard and it's 10 pages. What user would want to go through that? Those are all examples of things that are wrong. So there's usually not one quick thing that you can fix in a business and it just skyrockets. It's a lot of little things. And you have to look at what's wrong, what can be improved, and then slowly fix all of them.
Do you think that, do you ever think to yourself when you are acquiring these businesses, this is so easy to fix, why haven't you done it before? But yay me, I'm getting a great opportunity.
Not always. Sometimes. It's more so, I think about it as certain people are better at different things. So I look at what they've done and I'm like, wow, what you've done is so hard. And they probably look at it as like, oh, what we've done is so easy. I don't know how you can't do that. Because there's some things that I suck at.
Like what? Go on, you have to share.
Like I suck at managing people. I'm a terrible manager.
But you own a digital agency and you have all these companies.
Yeah, but I'm not the CEO of any of them.
Ah, that's an interesting concept. So what do you do within the businesses?
Traffic generation.
And so have you kind of stepped away from being that CEO and just tell me a little bit more. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So you do the traffic generation. But that's kind of
I've
grunt.
always had business partners, so I've never been the CEO.
Ah, okay. Because that's kind of the grunt work. This is anti what everybody tells you. Everybody tells you to get out of the doing and start managing and growing.
Yeah, but the doing is what I'm good at, so I just focus on that.
And you just make sure you surround yourself with the other people who are great at the other stuff.
Exactly.
That's a key tip there, guys, is it's okay to actually be doing the things that you love doing, even if it's not being the business owner, but you need to have somebody out up there, up the top, managing everything and making sure it runs perfectly.
Yeah, like, I know I'm a terrible operator, so my buddy Mike, he's a CEO, and he loves operating and managing, and he's good at it.
Is it really that you just like people telling you what to do?
No, no one really tells me what to do. Like, I don't have technically a quote unquote. Well, technically, I have a boss. Every one of my customers is a boss.
So how many hours a week do you work in your business?
I have no idea.
Too many?
I know probably 70 or so hours a week, 60 on the low end. Inside the business, almost most of it.
You are not the poster child for the work-life balance then, are you?
No,
And do you have a family?
no.
Okay. So what do you think of
I
then?
have assuming kids.
What do you think when people keep saying, you have to live this life you love and you have to live the freedom lifestyle and work from wherever you want and work the hours that you want? You're the opposite of that. You're quite happy not being the CEO. You're quite happy working 80 hours a week in your business, but yet you have multi-million dollar companies.
Yeah. The way I end up looking at it is I end up. So when you're talking about the work-life balance and how I run things, this is what I love. This is my passion. I don't really look at work-life balance. I just love what I'm doing and I just do it. And that's really it. Like, there is no balance. There is no, hey, you should travel, you should work less. It's just do whatever you love. And I love working.
So do you think that would change if you got to the point in your life where you do have a family?
Yeah, I'm not ready right now, but sure. And, however many years, of course.
And do you feel like the business will be in a position to continue on if you're not working 70 hours a week?
Wait, can you repeat the question again? I want to make sure I got it right.
Do you feel like the business, you're putting the businesses in a position that when you don't feel like working 70 hours a week anymore, they're still going to continue to grow?
Well, they already are set up that way. So if I don't put in the 70 hours, they're still fine. But I just enjoy putting in the hours.
This is not where the conversation, not where I thought the conversation was going to go. So I'm very impressed that you can actually be growing the business while working in the business. And there's probably a lot of people going, this is against everything that you've ever told us, Sal. Set yourself up for success. But you've done that.
Well, it's different for every person, right? Everyone has their own definition of success. When I look at success, I just look at it as like, I'm happy. And technically, I don't even optimize for being happy. I optimize for being content. Because when you're happy, there's always down, but the goal is just to be, content.
So apart from work and apart from growing businesses, what else makes you happy and content?
Relaxing, walking, watching TV. I even have the TV on right now. Technically, the TV is on 24/7, even when I'm sleeping. I just like the background noise.
You are a very simple man to please.
Yeah, I don't need much in life to keep me happy.
All right. My next question is a business question, which is when you invest in growing, so when you're actually putting that hard earned cash, and I know that I was reading one of your blog posts where you bought the Kissmetrics name for $500,000. When you invest,
Not the name, the website, but yeah.
the website, right? Okay. when you take a big chunk of money like that, $500,000 is a lot of money. That's a lot of risk. And whether it's purchasing a website or acquiring another company or even just hiring a new staff member, how do you decide to take that leap of faith that investing is going to reap rewards for you?
I don't know. I'm a gambler. I just do it. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but like, I'm the guy who will double down every single time, at least in business. I don't gamble at the casino, but I invest in myself. Look, when you want to do investment, you want to take some risks. If you don't believe in your ability in yourself, then you're never going to win. You got the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Of course, that's when you can lose your shirt. But I took that risk, keeping a few things in mind. For me, that's not all of my money. I'm not saying I'm rich, but I was okay. I was willing to lose the money and taking that risk. So if you're not willing to lose the money and you can't afford to lose the money, don't make the investment. Two, I did a lot of analysis. I looked at how much traffic they're getting, the quality of those visitors, what I could potentially get in leads and revenue for my business. Like, I ran all of the numbers before I decided to make that decision. So just don't go and make decisions blindly. And when I do this, like, it may seem like some of this is easy and, I'm doing it just for shits and giggles and I'm risking a lot of money. I'm taking a lot of calculated risk. I usually don't just make decisions without running numbers. I'm very data driven and numbers oriented.
How long do you normally take to assess a company before you make a risk like that?
Depends. Sometimes I can figure out within an hour or 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes me many, many months.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It seems.
I enjoy it.
It does. It sounds like enough to keep you interested all the time and to keep you on the ball and to keep life exciting.
Exactly. It keeps life exciting, keeps business exciting. It's just fun. It's always changing, and that's what I like. I love fast-paced environment that continually changes.
So have you ever had any of those sorts of acquisitions that didn't work out the way you expected?
Yeah, a lot of them. They usually always work out the way you don't want, but you have to pad that in. Whatever you think that's going to happen, it's always going to be worse. It's never as good as you want. The numbers never work out the way you want. You always have to put in some padding for failure. I always assume like 30-40% of my calculation, whatever I calculate, is going to be off.
And do you ever feel like a failure when that happens? And the only reason I ask this is because dealing with independent businesses, you get so tied up in the outcome. You get so tied up in, if this doesn't work out the exact way that I've planned, then it must have been a failure. And yet you're saying 30-40% of the time might not work.
Well, for me, I look at failure as like you stop, you give up, you quit. I keep at it. So I look at things as like learning lessons.
Do you have any e-commerce stores?
No, I never will because it's too much work. I know that sounds counterintuitive for the guy who works 70 hours a week, but dealing with all that inventory, I don't know how you do it. Like, I can't do it.
But you love numbers and analysis.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to have a big warehouse and deal with drop shipping and all these products. Like, it's not me. And the margins, I don't like the margins. They're not bad. A lot of people make like 20-30%. Some make even more, like 40%. It's just, it's not easy and it's not for me. I'm better at software.
Okay. Like you said, everybody's got their thing that they're great at.
Yeah.
And if people didn't sell stuff, you wouldn't be able to buy stuff.
No, I love e-commerce. I just don't want to run an e-commerce business. I don't want, like, people will go and buy toothpaste at the store. I will buy toothpaste off of Amazon. People buy toilet papers from the store. I buy them off of Amazon. Like, I buy everything online. I'm like, why do I need to go to the store? Groceries? Get it delivered. Everyone's doing these grocery delivery services. I've been using grocery delivery services for over like 5 or 6 years now. I'm used to it.
You also started an online business when you were 16. You're kind of ahead of the game there.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is I love where the internet's going. I love e-commerce, and I think it's getting better and better.
I think as we get a lot more personalization, it becomes easier to shop. Funnily enough, being a retail strategist, I actually hate shopping. I can't deal with bad customer experience. So I'm with you. If I can buy it online, I usually will. And going
Yep.
into a store, I have to have good customer service, or otherwise it upsets me for days, which is why I shop about twice a year for clothes, and I just do it all in one foul swoop.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. And you have a big community of people who have retail and e-commerce. What's funny is it's like if you look at a lot of the people I know that are in e-commerce and that once you get the knack of it, like I talk to some of these guys who are like, I don't know how you do software. Like e-commerce is amazing. It's like it's so simple as long as you get the processes down. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. It's a whole nother world for me when you're dealing with like logistics and inventory and when to buy it and what happens if people get the wrong product. I'm just like, oh.
The funny thing was the only thing there you mentioned was the wrong product. That's customer service. I'm with you. I believe that if you can master the systems, because systems is what keeps any business running. And if you can master the systems, you can auto order your inventory. You can auto increase your sales. You can put the tech hacks in place to 10x your revenue really, really simply. But it's just having those foundation steps to get you into a position where, and I'm sure this is the same with software, you have to put all the steps in place for it to be able to almost run itself.
Yeah, I myself just am not I'm not the best with processes.
Interesting.
So
I would have thought that
that's
someone who loves data and analytics also loved processes.
no, I love processes. I'm just terrible at creating them.
Do you have a person for that?
Yeah. It depends which company and which division, but yeah, we usually hire people who are really good at processes, especially when it comes to leaders. Because for me, I just have to stick with marketing and getting traffic. Like I know like the back of my hand, I don't need a process for it. See, marketing is a lot of experimentation. You keep testing new and new things until you figure out how to make things work and what produces the best results. But a lot of it's experimentation. It's less process oriented than most people think.
But yet, can we talk about that? It's less process orientated than you think. But yet, if you can define a system that works, if you know, for example, in copywriting, you know that you have to attach yourself to, attach your customer to an emotion, to a feeling. And then once you know what those words look like, you can write the copy. And once you know the copy, you put the same sorts of images on your landing page and it makes it easier for people to buy. So can you just tell me a little bit more in depth about why you think marketing isn't about processes?
Well, marketing is about processes. I'm just saying I run it without processes because it's a lot of experimentation. I don't have a big marketing team. I usually let's say for Neil Patel Digital, the ad agency, I do the marketing for the ad agency. There's not a ton of people there. I'm like, I can do it however I want.
You're a bit of a maverick, aren't you?
Yeah. Not always, the best thing, but I am in many cases, yeah.
Do your business partners deal with that okay?
Yeah, because it's yin and yang, right? If I can drive enough traffic and leads for the business, they don't care. It's for them, they just have to do the rest. See, a lot of businesses struggle to get the traffic and leads or traffic and sales. I'm good at that portion. I'm terrible at the operations portion. So they like it because my strengths are their weaknesses and my weaknesses are their strengths.
Okay, can we just jump into that then? So you said that one of your strengths is traffic and sales. Now, those two things are vastly different, correct?
Not necessarily, because I look at traffic as like marketing and you have to persuade people to come to your website and buy. And, I look at it all tied together.
So for the sales portion, how do you take what you're great at? So you're great at creating content, whether it's video content, audio content, written content. That's your shtick. That's the thing that you have mastered so well. How do you then take that and use that to convert into sales?
It's the same thing. You have an e-commerce store. I will go and figure out, like when you're creating content like video, audio for a blog or whatever, maybe, in essence, you're answering objections and solving problems. The same goes with e-commerce pages. You have a product page, you're answering objections. think about what issues people would have before they buy the product, or what may go through their head, you know, and make them not purchase because they have some concerns. Answer all those concerns in the copy. For example, showing really good images and video, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can't touch it physically, so I want to make sure it looks really good. Well, show them a video of it. Show them really good high quality pictures. It reduces the chance that they'll bounce, right? It increases the chance that they'll convert. Those little simple things can boost your revenue. It's the same with creating content for a blog post. Well, what issues people are having? How can I solve them all?
You make it seem so simple.
A lot of things are simple. The hardest part is execution.
Ah, yes. And what are your tips then for someone who doesn't want to spend 70 hours a week creating content?
I have no idea. Well, I'll figure out what you love and focus on that and hire people for the content part if you don't want to do it.
Okay. Now, as one of the leading marketers in the world, like at the beginning, I sprouted off a whole bunch of these stats. Dude, let's face it, you're pretty awesome in this industry. So who do you turn to when you want some marketing advice or marketing inspiration?
Everyone. Just because I've been in the industry the longest doesn't mean I'm the best or I know the most. I believe you can learn from everyone. I love talking to those people who are new in marketing and be like, I just tried this hack and look what it did. I'm like, oh, cool. Thank you. I learned something new.
Do you actually have a mentor now, or do you have, everybody talks about masterminds and peer group masterminds and having a coach to get to the next level. When you're at the top, do you have anybody else?
I don't think I'm at the top. I know I'm not at the top. And as for anyone else, most of my friends are entrepreneurs, so we of course help each other out whenever we need help.
Okay, so who do you think is the top online marketer in the world?
I don't think there's one person. I think there's tons of people who are really good at different things.
Okay, give us
For
three.
example, Frank Kern is a really amazing copywriter, right? I'm good at SEO. So is a guy named Brian Dean from Backlinko. Like the numbers there's just so many potential people that you can end up learning from. I don't like looking at like, oh, this is the expert, this is the end all be all. I'm like, no, I like challenging the status quo. How can I keep learning from more and more? I want to talk to the people who aren't experts because they're not set in their ways.
I like that. I like the concept that there is no one particular person. There's just fantastic people in a whole bunch of different niches.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Like, I've been doing marketing for a long time, right?
Yes.
Say I'm a better marketer than you. I'm making an assumption here. All right. Now, just because I've probably been in the online world longer than you. Is that an accurate statement or no?
I've been in it 10 years, and I think you've been in there about 17 years, so nearly double.
All right. So just because I've been in it longer than you doesn't mean I know anything better than you. You can teach me so much. For example, you know more about e-commerce than I do because you help so many people specifically on e-commerce and even brick and mortar. I don't know anywhere near as much brick and mortar as you do, right? So it's like, just because I have, 1.7 million unique visitors reading my blog, or 500 or whatever thousand YouTube views per month, and, X number of Facebook fans, doesn't mean I'm better than you or anyone else. I have a lot to learn, just like you do. And that's why you're doing things like this podcast. And that's the key to really succeeding, is to admit that you don't know everything and just be willing to learn. And it doesn't matter if you were learning from a child or a quote unquote guru or expert or whatever you want to call them. As long as you're willing to learn, you're usually good to go.
Life would be pretty boring if we weren't learning all the time, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Okay. Given that you've been in the industry so long and pretty much at its inception, I thought I was doing well being one of the first businesses on Facebook back in 2008. But you were there back in the days when we didn't have data on our phones. Like, I don't even know if we had internet back then. It was 2006, was it? No.
Yeah. There was, I don't think there was these iPhones and all this stuff back then. So
no, given what you've learned in 17 years in digital marketing, if you could go back to that 16-year-old who was creating the job board, what would you say to him?
I would say, don't do it. You don't care for a job board. So don't do it. You find what you love and focus on that. I would also tell them to stop hopping around and doing too many businesses and just focus on one.
Do you think that that's a problem that you have now, hopping around doing too many businesses?
No, I'm much better these days.
Cool. Okay. Well, I am getting close to time and I wanted to ask you, I know that you don't have an e-commerce store and I know that you don't want an e-commerce store, but this week I gave my listeners the challenge in our Retail Breakthrough series to go and make an extra $1,000 in 7 days. So if I gave you that challenge, what would you do to make an extra $1,000 in 7 days?
At this phase in my life?
Yep.
So extra 1,000 in 7 days?
Yep.
And that's from running e-commerce, correct?
Well, you can either give us an e-commerce tip of what you would do, or you can just give us a tip of what you would do in your current business. Whatever feels comfortable.
In an e-commerce business, I know this sounds crazy. I've done so many A/B tests and conversion optimizations on this and experiments. Taking amazing pictures and videos and 360 views of products makes a world of difference. And people don't believe it, but it's helped so much from all the tests that I've run.
So you've taken the pictures and then what would you do? Because you need to have the traffic first in order to make that extra $1,000.
Yeah, and I would just upload it to my site and I would probably do better. I was assuming they already had traffic. If they don't have the traffic, here's what I would do. I would go find all the influential community members within your space, the micro influencers. I'm talking about like the mom bloggers and people like that. I'm not talking about that, half naked male model or half naked female model that just posts a picture and people will like them because they're half naked. I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with that. I'm just saying that's not the right influencer for almost all products. Unless you're selling like swimming trunks for men and they're a male model, or you're selling bikinis for women and they're a swimwear model, right? I would go find the ideal micro influencer and keep giving them products and try to get them to blog on me, because if they blog and they have a very engaging community, you'll see more than that $1,000 increase in sales. But here's a trick. You don't want to just take people for the face value saying like, oh, my community is engaging. Ask them how many people are on their email list if they're a blogger. Look at their follower account. Look at how engaged people are in their social profiles. Are they leaving comments? Are they not? Are they responding to comments? All these things will really help figure out how to do these things, or how to get the right influencers and generate sales.
Great work. I think that is completely doable. I think if you went out to those people who, even if they just had 2,000 or 3,000 followers, but they're super engaged, you could drive an awful lot of traffic in a really short period of time to your website and to get those sales.
Yep, I agree.
That's a really interesting take. It's not where I thought you were going to go, but thank you so much for that. Now, if people would like to learn more about all of the information you've got, or maybe drop into your podcast, where can they find you?
NeilPatel.com.
And your podcast is? I love your podcast. It's 5 minutes. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's marketing school. Make sure you guys check it out on iTunes and subscribe. I want to get to 1 million listens a month. I'm only at, Eric and I are at like 730 or 740 or something like that per month. Still not bad.
That is not bad. I jumped in yesterday and I listened to a couple just while I was waiting to pick my daughter up from school. And the new little sneaky trick about the Facebook info and ads is very awesome for marketing.
No, thank you.
So thank you for sharing that one. And thank you for all of this information. You've given us some fantastic tips. Even though you agree that e-commerce is not necessarily your thing, you have worked with so many e-commerce businesses in the digital marketing agency, and you've actually generated so much traffic yourself that people who are listening are going to take this away and just know that the tips you've given them are so easily implementable. So thanks for just giving us some stuff that we can take away and put in place right now.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Did you know that 80% of businesses close within the first 3 years? I don't want you to be one of those statistics. I want your retail business, whether it's an online store or a physical store, to be one of those stores that survives and thrives. Do you want that too? Which is why I created the Retail Breakthrough series. If you feel like you've hit a plateau, that you're stuck, or that you're getting caught up on that Groundhog Day treadmill where every day seems to be filled with repetitive tasks and constant overwhelm, then this is the series for you. If you've ever felt like there has to be more to business than this, then you are going to love what I have in store for you. And if you're putting in all the work, doing everything the experts tell you, but you're just not getting any further ahead, then you've just got to come and join me. What I'll share with you throughout this live limited edition series is how to overcome the 3 major roadblocks that are stopping your retail business from becoming that profitable brand that you have always wanted. And the best part is this is absolutely free. Simply head over to selinaknight.com/breakthrough and grab your front row seat before it's gone.